Hello and welcome to World Talks with me, Ashim Kumar. Protests over the dismissal of Ukrainian Defense Minister Mykhailo Fedorov have been paused until Friday, but calls for the removal of a Commander-in-Chief, General Oleksandr Syrskyi, continue to grow. Syrskyi says his only fight is against Russia. Well, we'll examine the political and military implications with Stefan Korshak. He's Senior Defense Correspondent at the Kyiv Post. Stefan, welcome back. Thanks for taking the time.
Hi, Ashim. How you doing? And thank you for having me. Very
well. Thank you for coming. Now, how would you? I mean, what's the situation? It seems to be changing every minute or two. Quite frankly, is Fedorov going to go back in? Is Syrskyi going to lose his job? Was there a spat between them?
All excellent questions. Probably to a certain degree, they're all both correct and incorrect. As far as the difference between Fedorov and Syrskyi, at the end of the day, it's a question of philosophy and how Ukraine should go forward with the war. In very simple terms, Fedorov is an advocate of maximum technologization, maximum drones, minimal use of personnel, and taking on Russia using that kind of technology. And he says that's the best way to move forward. Syrskyi is a classic soldier, and he says you can't gain ground without infantry, without tanks, without artillery. Absolutely, drones are the sharp end of any kind of attack that the Ukrainian army is going to make. It's going to be the backbone of any defense that the Ukrainian military is going to attempt. But fighting a war is not going to be won by a silver bullet, even if it's drones. And that is the essence of their difference of opinion in terms of philosophy. And it bleeds over, or more exactly has bled over into most of the aspects of the relationship. Fedorov was running the defense ministry and so responsible for supporting the army, the military, I should say, and Syrskyi running the military and running and fighting the war. And they both have different ideas on how resources should be allocated. And at bottom, that's the difference of opinion. And when it came to push and shove, it seems like Fedorov told the president, Zelenskyy, that either it's me or him. And Zelenskyy said, well, you have to go. I'm going to stick with Syrskyi. In simple terms, that seems to be what the difference is over.
Right. I mean, but there are a couple of things I think worth mentioning. The first is, of course, that Fedorov has been, I mean, he's only been in situ for 6 months or so, and he's done a pretty good job with controlling the drones and using the drones, and also cutting Russia off the Starlink system. I mean, surely this is also not the right time to be having, this kind of problem at the military level at the very top. I mean, what kind of message is it sending to the soldiers on the front line?
Well, the soldiers on the front line would say, I think even more, that who cares about messages? The question is fighting the war. And when you have people in Kiev arguing about who sits in which important chair, that's not the priority. The priority is fighting a major war against the Russian Federation and dealing with that onslaught. The Ukrainians are at the bottom, outnumbered, outpowered by a factor of 3 or 4 to 1, and everything that they do or try to do has to deal with that. The difference of the differences within the leadership is to a certain extent normal for the Ukrainian national leadership, for good or for bad. Fedorov is the 4th defense minister. It's not quite musical chairs, but it is common for Zelenskyy to rotate national level staff on more or less an annual basis. And the successes that the Ukrainians have had in the past 6 months certainly, in part, are due to Fedorov's good work and skill and prioritization of mass acquisition of drones and some other things. But I think that the soldiers on the line would say that it's their grit and hard work and sacrifice that really are spelling the difference between success and failure. I've talked to many drone units, and they make it very clear that certainly the Defense Ministry is part of the success the success of the drone forces, but it's very much a bottom-up operation, and the real leaders in the Ukrainian campaign with long-range drone strikes really it's not coming from the top. It's commanders at the brigade level, at the battalion level even, who have the initiative, the technological skill, and the charisma to develop units and field them and keep them in the field so that they can attack Russia or defend against a Russian attack. So most of the soldiers on the line would say that yes, Fedorov absolutely is an important person, as is Syrskyi, but they would also say that the Ukrainian military is not one where it's top down and the boss decides everything. It's just not that kind of organization. It's very much grassroots, very much bottom up.
Understood.
And,
Stefan, what then are the people demonstrating about?
Well, they have a very legitimate gripe in that simply getting rid of Fedorov is not a positive move, that he has done a great deal of good, and he represents a way forward in the war that many people think is the right way forward. It's disagreed with by most of the professional soldiers to some degree or greater or less, but public opinion is public opinion, and everybody can see that drones are effective and more drones are more effective, and Fedorov absolutely is a piece of that success. So when people, and it's not for them a theoretical discussion. It's whether or not their house is going to get hit by a Russian drone. It's whether or not a relative or a member of the family is going to get hurt in combat. They want more than anything else for the war to be prosecuted efficiently and effectively. And when an effective manager is simply, if you will, tossed out on his ear, people are going to object. It's a democracy, and even during a war, people will come out of the streets. They've done it before, and they likely will do it again. That is the way that Ukrainian society works.
Right. Well, how much blame are they apportioning to Zelenskyy for this?
Oh, you talk to 100 Ukrainians, you get 100 different opinions. Zelenskyy is considered a relatively effective leader. He is considered a guy who has performed well beyond expectations. He's widely respected, but I think that you would struggle to find many Ukrainians who would speak as positively about Zelenskyy as one might hear in the West, where he's compared with Churchill and called the greatest military leader, in this century. And they don't see him that way. The Ukrainians see him as a politician with agenda who is at least potentially thinking about his next election or the next election, and who, even if he isn't thinking about the next election, has an entire staff and entourage who have political careers that they want to think about. And there are some that are saying that Zelenskyy took on Fedorov and created a political rival, and that's one of the reasons why Fedorov was pushed out, because he was becoming too popular. That is not certainly a universal opinion, but you certainly can find it. So the opinion on what Zelenskyy is doing on this point is, well, he's the guy in charge. He's got his agenda. He's not doing a terrible job. He's clearly doing a better job than Vladimir Putin, but he's answerable to us, the voters, and we'll wait and see what he's going to do next. And if we don't like it, then we'll take action.
So they're giving him a bit of breathing space then before they take to the streets about him. Stefan Korshak, as always, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Stay safe and good night.
Thanks very much for having me. Until the next time. Good
Until
night.
the next time. Bye-bye now. And that brings us to the end of this episode. World Talks don't go away. Lots more coming up. Goodbye.